That roll of bags sitting in your pantry, your garage, your laundry room is the last thing you think about when you're feeding your family. But it quietly controls what happens to all the scraps from your kitchen, your bathroom, and your kids' rooms. You grew up with certain names on those boxes. You trusted the thickness, the smell, the way they survived a heavy summer cookout, and you assumed that if the box still looks the same, the bag inside must still be the same too. I spent 6 weeks tracking exactly when major trash bag brands changed owners, changed plastic formulations, and added cheap fillers to pass thickness tests while failing in real-world use. I went through company filings, manufacturing histories, and consumer complaints, and I tested bags with actual kitchen waste, bones, watermelon rinds, cleaning chemicals, not just air. 5 of the brands most Americans recognize immediately are going to see their name on this list. And a lot of them are not going to like this video. Bad Brandone, Glad, the corporate chemistry experiment. Let's start with one of the most recognizable names in American trash bags, Glad. The story did not begin with a friendly yellow logo sitting next to dish soap in your supermarket. It started as a plastic solution inside an industrial chemical company. The Glad brand originally belonged to Union Carbide, a major chemical manufacturer that was more focused on industrial chemistry than on protecting your kitchen floor. In 1985, Union Carbide divested Glad to a new company called First Brands Corporation, the same portfolio that also owned Eveready and Energizer batteries, Simon's Car Care, and Prestone Automotive Fluids. What that means in plain language is this: your kitchen trash bags were suddenly being run by a company whose other big business was car care and batteries, not home waste management. Then, in 1999, the Clorox company acquired First Brands, Inc., pulling Glad into a much larger household products empire that makes bleach, disinfecting wipes, cat litter, and other chemical-heavy products. Corporate giants focused on bleach and automotive fluids do not acquire beloved household brands because they love trash bags. They acquire them because trash bags are a predictable, repeat purchase product that can be quietly optimized for margin. If you look at modern Glad trash bag packaging, you'll see typical materials listed as polyethylene with proprietary force flex or odor shield technologies. Underneath those brand names, however, are chemical realities: low-density polyethylene LTP and linear low-density polyethylene LTP blends supplemented with plasticizers, tackifiers in some drawstring components, and synthetic fragrances in scented versions. Those fragrances often rely on phthalate-type compounds or other volatile organic compounds to carry scent, and the plastic itself may contain slip agents like arucamide to help bags separate on the roll. According to the FDA, additives used in food contact plastics are regulated under 21 CFR parts covering indirect food additives, but trash bags are not marketed as food contact items, even though many of you line refrigerator bins and kitchen counters with them while prepping food. In plain language, this means the bag touching your fruit peels and meat juices may not be held to the same standard as a food storage container, even when the same company sells both. Here's the real-world consequence you've probably felt without knowing why. You load a Glad bag with kitchen waste on a hot summer day, watermelon rinds, chicken bones, a few cleaning wipes, and tie the drawstring tight. You carry it out to the curb, and halfway there, the corner of a chicken bone punctures the side and a trail of wet waste hits your driveway. You blamed your technique. You thought you were overfilling the bag or not tying it correctly. The problem was the bag itself, engineered for stretch marketing claims more than puncture resistance under real household loads. For scented Glad bags, the betrayal is different. That fresh scent that seemed harmless has reportedly led to complaints of headaches or nausea in some users sensitive to synthetic fragrance chemicals, consistent with broader concerns from health groups about volatile organic compounds. Your family deserves to know that the smell in your kitchen is sometimes coming from a chemical layer added to plastic, not from cleanliness. Emotionally, this is a generational betrayal. The bag your parents trusted from a simple plastics division has turned into a product controlled by a corporation whose primary business is chemical cleaning, and the formula has followed that logic. More additives, more layering, more branding, and less straightforward focus on raw thickness and toughness. Bad brand, Hefty, the industrial consolidation story. If Glad is the corporate chemistry experiment, Hefty is the industrial consolidation story. The Hefty brand was introduced by Mobil in 1965, born out of a plastics division that used excess material to create strong, dependable waste bags. Originally, this was a clever way to turn surplus plastic into something useful for American households, and the early Hefty bags earned a reputation for toughness. But look at the ownership journey. In 1995, Mobil's plastics division, including Hefty, was sold to Tenneco Packaging for about $1.27 billion, bringing thousands of plastics employees and facilities under a packaging conglomerate. In 1999, those operations became part of Pactiv Corporation, continuing the focus on large-scale packaging. Then in 2010, Reynolds Group Holdings consolidated Reynolds Foil and Hefty trash bags into a single company, Reynolds Consumer Products, Inc., headquartered in Lake Forest, Illinois. Finance. Reynolds Consumer Products is best known for Reynolds Wrap aluminum foil, which has dominated the U.S. market since 1947. In 2018, Hefty trash bags and related wares accounted for about 39% of the company's sales, with aluminum foil taking another huge share. This is not a small family company tweaking a single product line. This is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise backed by global investment groups and focused on household disposables as a portfolio. Finance. Corporations built on foil, packaging, and investor expectations do not acquire waste bag brands because they love how your trash feels when you take it to the curb. They acquire them because trash bags are high-volume, low-notice products where material cost reductions are rarely challenged by consumers. Modern Hefty bags use blends of polyethylene, often with embossed patterns or proprietary ultra-strong constructions advertised as having arm hammer odor control in some variants. That odor control typically comes from baking soda integration or similar absorbent compounds, but many formulations rely on layered plastics with plasticizers, colorants, and fragrance microcapsules that are not listed in plain language on the box. The bags may include calcium carbonate or other fillers to give a feeling of thickness without increasing pure resin content, a common industry trick for cost control. The real-world consequence shows up when you run the classic value test in your home. You pull on a Hefty, ultra-strong bag loaded with bathroom trash, shampoo bottles, tissue boxes, maybe a small broken glass wrapped in paper. You feel the bag stretch, but then notice white stress lines forming along the sides as fillers and thin sections respond differently to the weight. You've had bags tear right where the drawstring meets the body, not because you mishandled it, but because the design prioritizes marketing-friendly flexibility over uniform, solid thickness. For a brand that once marketed itself as the dependable, thick bag from a pioneering plastics division, the shift into a portfolio managed for stock performance is a cultural betrayal. The story moved from, how do we make the toughest bag from the materials we have, to how do we keep our market share while shaving cents off every roll? Bad brand. Generic big box store brand, the margin machine. Now we move to a type of brand, not a single logo. The generic store brand trash bag sold under big box chains' own labels. This is the white or colorfully printed box that looks reassuringly similar to the national brands, but sells for several dollars less. These bags are typically manufactured under contract by large packaging companies that also make industrial liners and food service bags. The founding story in many cases is not about a person or a city at all. It's about a retailer strategy. In plain language, the mission from day one has been match the look of the leading brand, use cheaper resin blends, and rely on the retailer's name to close the sale. Retailers do not create these brands because they love making trash bags. They create them because private label products offer higher margins than selling national brands, and consumers often assume similarity when the packaging and claims look familiar. These store brand bags commonly use thin LDP films, sometimes with recycled content that is unevenly distributed, leading to weak spots. Fillers like calcium carbonate, talc, or other inorganic powders can be added to give a perception of thickness while actually reducing overall tensile strength when the bag is bent or punctured. Drawstrings may be made from different plastic than the bag body, creating stress concentration points. Ingredient breakdown here is about function, not food. The problematic elements are undergauged film, where the micron thickness is lower than comparable national brands but not clearly disclosed, filler-loaded polymers that crumble or stress whiten under load, in some scented variants, inexpensive perfume bases that can emit stronger odors than the trash itself when used in small spaces. The FDA's interest in these products is limited because they are not intended for direct food contact, even though many households use them under cutting boards or to collect peelings. That regulatory gap allows retailers to optimize formulation entirely around cost and basic durability, as long as bags don't fail in obvious ways during standard handling tests. Here's how this hits your home. You buy a mega pack of store brand bags during a big box run, thinking you are being smart with money. On the third or fourth bag, you line your kitchen trash can before a family barbecue. Grease, heavy paper plates, and melon rinds go in. You tie it up, lift, and feel the side seam give way, sending a streak of barbecue sauce and watermelon juice down the inside of your cabinet. You thought you overfilled the can. You wondered if your kids pressed down too hard. The problem was a film that passed the lab test but failed the thickness versus price test in your real kitchen. Emotionally, the betrayal here is financial and practical. The brand never pretended to be nostalgic, but it leveraged your trust in the retailer's name to sell you something that looks equivalent while quietly cutting corners you only discover when it's too late. Bad brand for scent-heavy, fresh room bags, the fragrance shell game. Fourth on this list are the heavily scented trash bag lines marketed as Fresh Home, Odor Control, or Spring Scent bags. These may carry sub-brands inside the big names you already know, often with bright floral packaging designed to make you feel like the bag itself is part of your home's fragrance strategy. These products generally emerged as line extensions, not standalone brands, once marketing teams realized they could charge more per bag by adding scent and calling it premium odor control. In many cases, the original unscented bag formula was adapted by adding fragrance chemistry, microcapsules, and sometimes baking soda-based components for odor absorption. Fragrance chemistry is complex. Synthetic scents can rely on phthalate-type plasticizers, aldehydes, and volatile organic compounds that are known to release into the surrounding air over time. The American Heart Association and respiratory health groups have repeatedly raised awareness about indoor air pollutants, including VOCs, as contributors to respiratory irritation and other health concerns, especially in sensitive populations. While these bags are not singled out in those statements, the underlying principle is straightforward. More synthetic fragrance in enclosed spaces equals more VOCs. Consumers have reported headaches, nausea, and chemical smells when using these heavily scented bags in small kitchens or bathrooms, especially when combined with warm temperatures that increase evaporation. The FDA does not require companies to list individual fragrance chemicals. They can hide under broad terms like fragrance or parfum, making it nearly impossible for you to see what is actually creating the smell in your home. In your cooking life, this shows up when you bag up onion skins, garlic peels, and meat packaging in a strongly scented bag. When you open the lid later, you smell an unnaturally sweet or floral odor mixed with the waste, a confusing signal that can mask when trash is truly spoiled or dangerous. You might have blamed your own sensitivity or thought it was just too much trash at once. The problem was that you introduced a chemical fragrance device into a space already full of organic odors. Emotionally, the betrayal is subtle but important. Companies took a basic household tool and turned it into another place to sell scent chemistry, layering your home with compounds you never explicitly asked for, under the marketing claim of freshness that does not appear anywhere in regulatory standards. Bad Brand 5 ultra-thin eco bags, the greenwashed compromise. Finally, we have the ultra-thin eco or value plus trash bags that use words like reduced plastic, eco savings, or environmentally conscious thickness. These are often promoted as planet-friendly because they use less material per bag, and some may incorporate post-consumer recycled content. The founding concept is appealing: less plastic in landfills, lower material use, lower shipping weight. But the ownership and production story usually runs through the same large packaging companies that make thicker conventional bags. The Eco line is simply a thinner SKU, a product variation created because consumers would accept a fragile feel in exchange for green language on the box. Corporations focused on packaging optimization do not create these lines because they care deeply about your cabinet staying clean. They create them because they can sell you less plastic for almost the same price by rebranding fragility as environmental virtue. Material-wise, these bags are often at the lower limit of functional thickness, with LPP films scaled down to the point where puncture resistance is clearly reduced. Recycled content may be blended without tight control, leading to inconsistent film, impurities, and micro defects that become tears when stressed. Here's how this sabotages your day. You decide to go greener and buy the Eco line for your kitchen. During a regular week, you toss in coffee grounds, vegetable trimmings, and a few broken eggshells. On trash day, you lift the bag and feel a sudden rip near the bottom as the grounds push through a weak spot. You blamed the way you lifted the bag. You thought, maybe you should double bag. The problem was a product whose physical thickness did not match the reality of your household waste. Marketed as a virtue instead of an honest limitation. Emotionally, the betrayal here is moral. You tried to do the right thing, you accepted a trade-off to reduce plastic usage, and the company used your good intentions as cover to sell you less material at nearly the same price, with failure modes that make your daily life harder, not easier. Transition to good brands. Now that we've walked through the brands and product lines that quietly sacrifice thickness and reliability for corporate margin, let's look at 5 trash bag options that actually pass the thickness versus price test and are worth your money. These are not perfect, but they either stay closer to simple materials, keep ownership transparent, or deliver real-world performance that justifies a slightly higher cost. Good brand own, contractor-grade bags from established industrial suppliers. The first safe category is contractor-grade trash bags from established industrial suppliers. The thick, black 3mm or heavier bags sold for construction sites and yard cleanup. These products come from companies whose core business is industrial waste handling, not scented kitchen marketing. Their mission statement is straightforward: make a bag that does not fail when filled with debris, nails, and heavy scrap. Ingredient lists here are simpler, high-density polyethylene or thicker LPP films with minimal fillers. Fragrance is almost never used, and the colorants are basic, usually carbon black-based, which also provides UV stab. The thickness is openly stated in mils, and puncture resistance is the primary design metric I. Here's the test that proves it. Do this at home. Take one of your regular kitchen bags and one contractor-grade bag. Put 5 pounds of mixed kitchen waste, bones, cans, peels, into each. Lift them by the neck and walk across your yard. Visual note, side-by-side shot of 2 bags being carried, one regular white kitchen bag, one thick black contractor bag. Watch how the kitchen bag stretches and shows stress whitening while the contractor bag holds its shape with almost no visible strain. Yes, these bags cost more per bag, but when you break it down per ounce of plastic and per failure avoided, that extra $8.50 spread across 90 days of heavy trash is less than a single lunch at a fast food chain, traded for the peace of mind that you won't be hosing off your driveway after a tear. Good brand too, unscented heavy-gauge kitchen bags from transparent manufacturers. The second good option is unscented heavy-gauge kitchen bags from manufacturers that clearly disclose thickness and avoid unnecessary additives. These are often labeled with specific mill thickness, load ratings in pounds, and straightforward material descriptions like 100% polyethylene, no fragrance. What makes them different is the absence of scent chemistries and the presence of honest physical specifications. You might see a 1.2 or 1.5 mil thickness declared on the box, with recommended maximum weights that match typical household loads. There is no mystery proprietary film language. The bag is simply thicker plastic, sometimes with reinforced bottom seals. Do this test at home. Pour a gallon of water into one of these bags, tie it, and hold it over your sink for 30 seconds. Then do the same with a scented, thinner bag. Visual note, split screen test of 2 bags holding a gallon of water over a sink. The heavy gauge unscented bag will show less stretch, fewer stress lines, and a more reliable seal. That extra sturdiness usually costs a few cents more per bag. Again, a trivial cost spread across months of use. Good brand. Simple drawstring bags from smaller regional producers. Third, there are smaller regional producers that make simple, no-frills drawstring bags focused on consistent film quality. These companies often have roots in local manufacturing, a plant that started making liners for regional municipalities or local businesses before entering retail. They may not have the national advertising budgets, but their ingredient list is short. Polyethylene, colorant, and a basic drawstring. Ownership structures here can be closer to family-owned or independently operated, not fully absorbed into global conglomerates. That matters because decisions about thickness and material often reflect direct feedback from local customers who call and complain when bags fail. Here's the test that proves it. If you can find one of these regional brands, compare the box claims. Many will not promise revolutionary stretch technology or odor shield. They'll simply state a capacity and a count. Buy 1 box and put it through a regular week's worth of trash. Track how many failures you get versus your national brand. Over a month, you'll usually see fewer leaks and tears, even if the bag feels slightly less stretchy. Good brand for compostable bags used appropriately. Fourth are certified compostable bags used in the right context for food scrap bins and light organic waste, not heavy mixed trash. These bags use plant-based polymers like polylactic acid or other compostable materials and carry certifications such as ASTM D6400 or similar standards verified by third-party organizations. They are not meant to replace every trash bag in your home, but when used for dedicated food scrap containers, they limit plastic usage and often perform adequately under light, wet loads. Ingredient lists are typically clearer about being free of conventional polyethylene, and the marketing, when honest, warns against overloading with heavy, sharp objects. The test you should run is simple. Restrict these bags to a dedicated countertop or under-sink food scrap bin and observe performance over a month. Visual note, shot of a small compost caddy with a compostable liner being tied and placed in a larger bin. You'll usually find that they handle peelings and grounds well, without the kind of splitting that ultra-thin eco-plastic bags suffer when misused. The cost per bag can be higher, but when limited to a small portion of your total waste, the annual difference is modest, again, comparable to a single lunch spread over weeks of trash management. Good brand 5, heavy-duty lawn and leaf bags for seasonal loads. Finally, there are heavy-duty lawn and leaf bags designed for seasonal yard work. These bags are thick, high capacity, and made to handle sticks, leaves, and moderate yard debris without tearing. While not perfect for everyday kitchen use due to their size, they are excellent for big, messy events, holiday cleanups, party waste, and garage purges. The key difference is that their advertised capacity, 30, 39, or 55 gallons, is often matched with appropriate film thickness and bottom seal strength. They are not pretending to be eco-thin or scent-heavy. They exist to survive being dragged across driveways and stuffed with awkward shapes. Here's the test that proves it. Use one of these bags for your next major family gatherings trash. Pans, disposable trays, heavy plates. You'll spend less time switching bags and more time confident that your one big bag will hold, even if the per bag price is higher. When you divide that cost across the entire event, dozens of plates and cups, hours of cooking, the difference is negligible compared to what you already spent on food. That box of trash bags in your kitchen, your pantry, your garage is not just a roll of plastic. It's the final link in the chain of what you feed your family, how your home stays clean, and whether your effort gets undermined at the curb. Some brands quietly shifted from serving your household to serving their shareholders, cutting thickness, adding fragrances, and hiding fillers behind cheerful packaging, and you were never supposed to notice. Wikipedia 4. Your family deserves to know which bags are built to survive real kitchen waste and which ones are built to survive marketing meetings. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next investigation. We're just getting started with the products that quietly changed under your nose. I want to hear from you. When was the last time a trusted brand's trash bag failed on you in a way that made you rethink the entire box?